Welcome to my video on how to fix a messy inventory system. My name's Neil Potter with Improving Your Small Business. I put this video together to help people organize their stuff. If they have stuff a bit like this over here, kind of things that are everywhere, what steps do you go through to figure out what to organize and then how to organize? So we're going to discuss that. There are two versions of the video, the YouTube summary version you're watching now, and there's actually a paid class you can get at the end if you want more detail. Now, I broke the title of the video into 12 steps, which I'm going to go through. In this YouTube summary video, I think you could become pretty dangerous in inventory management by the summary version. But again, if you need more steps and the spreadsheet that goes along with it, there's a class version 2 at the end. Now, the first step is to scope what to organize. If you have lots and lots and lots of stuff in boxes and trays and just scattered everywhere, then to organize everything at the beginning could take a while. And what you end up with could be not the optimum system. So I recommend scoping to begin with, maybe into 3 to 5 phases. So we may decide these things here in the pile of stuff are the most essential. We use them a lot, we sell them a lot, or we have the most difficulty finding them. And that becomes kind of phase 1. And so to get a whole system kind of running on phase 1 first, then we decide this is going to phase 2 here. These are the next level of things that are used, sold, or have difficulty finding. And that becomes kind of phase 2. So we can build phase 1 and get operational and kind of use the lessons from that, and then go to phase 2, then maybe kind of phase 3. And we might decide that after 3 or 4 phases, kind of chunking this kind of work down into blocks, that things that would have been in phase 5 up here, maybe they go away. Maybe we decide that if we've used everything frequently used, sold, and trouble finding, then things that did not qualify for those criteria at the very end, phase 5, maybe they're just junk again. And so don't try to boil the ocean at the beginning and build a perfect system. Start with the things that are most useful to you and kind of get the system kind of going first. Now, the tool you decide to use to manage your data is your choice. There are many tools out there that you can pay for. The one I'm going to show and the screen captures is the one I built in Excel, kind of a low-cost, kind of small-scale system. In this item about being sold, if you track your sales data, you can figure out which items are the most frequently kind of moving out of inventory. In my system, if you scan item number 1, there's 10 goes out, and scan item number 2, 20 go out, then number 3 go out, and etc. Down to the last one here, -2, so 2 items go out. This spreadsheet has a calculator on the far right-hand side that will adjust every time you do a scan. I'll take these numbers here, the outbound or sold items, and then kind of resort them continually based upon the most frequent. So if you do end up worrying or concerned about, which is the which of the items are the most used or sold, then either your sales system would tell you that, or you could, if you use this one here, this actual column on the far right-hand side will kind of repopulate itself continually, given the data over here. Now, step 2 is to define categories. Similar items, we want labels for them too. And so in this kind of shelf here, we have drill bits, wire, and wheels, okay? In my example here, we have product number 1, okay? Product number 2, product number 3, and then 4. There's a blue large and a black large and a blue large. So each of the items have their own unique SKU or own unique particular model number or version. But they are product number 1, black or blue or small and large. And so you want some categories defined, maybe 5 to 10, 15 categories that basically represent the different types of things you have in inventory. Now, we can use that later to define these shelves. When we actually get things organized, these categories will make good labels for our shelving or our binning system to kind of find things. Step 3 is to define SKUs and barcodes we have one SKU that is unique to a particular item. So product number 1, blue and large, will have one SKU. Product number 1, black and large, will have another SKU. Now, you might decide that the barcodes on the item itself, if they're manufactured by somebody else, you're going to buy bits and pieces. If they have their own barcodes, maybe you're going to use those, don't build your own barcodes. If you find those barcodes a little bit kind of random, like they are all over the place and they mean nothing to you, they're just a number, you might decide to relabel them in boxes and bins with your own SKUs, like an internal system, in which case you can take the name here. So a particular unique name I've made up for product number 1, blue and large, and I used Excel in this case to build a barcode. Now, in another video, I'll link it below, I show you how to build barcodes in Excel. The spreadsheet does that for us. If you look at some of the printer apps, like label printers, where they're going to do single feed label printing, those apps often have ability to build barcodes too in the label you print out. And if you go to this Avery website here, that also has a free ability to build labels, in this case Avery labels and barcodes. So there are many ways you can build barcodes. All it is really is a font. I mean, you have other fonts for other text. This is a font uniquely for barcodes. Now, step 4 is when we get into organizing our stuff, okay? So we start off with this kind of big warehouse or stockroom of stuff, okay? Whatever stuff you have. We identify kind of phase 1, the things we really want to get done first, okay? Organize first. And I would say step 4 would be to look at a workflow. Now, you might have a situation where you're selling things and there is no workflow. People come and make a request and you find the thing and you sell it. So this doesn't apply to you. For people that do have a workflow, the request comes in and they go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, etc. to assemble and put that thing together and then kind of ship it out to the customer over here. The workflow that you go through for that assembly or production may drive the way you physically organize stuff. You want the ability to have your stuff over here, organized in a way to kind of quickly feed and find for the step. So if step 1 uses these 2 things here, then have them close by to step 1. If step 2 kind of uses these things over here, then have them physically kind of by kind of step 2. Don't have them scattered in a warehouse somewhere, and you have to go walk and find them on the far corner of something, when the poor person has to then get out of their seat and then go to the far warehouse corner and find the things for step 2, whereas you could have had the things for step 2 to find here. So the workflow gives you the ability to maybe reconfigure physically how things are laid out, so they can be found and kind of put into the workflow quicker than if they were in a random location. Number 5 is to look for first in, first out. Now, some items expire, sometimes they age, sometimes there's version 1 of something and then version 2, and you want to sell all of version 1 first. You're going to get rid of it before version 2, unless you price version 2 differently. And so you might decide at the beginning of the shelf, at the front of the shelf, is the older stuff, okay, that's consumed first, and the back of the shelf, that's you feeding the back of the shelf here, is the newer stuff. Just like a grocery store, we're going to do that, okay. But in your case, you don't want to use new stuff. You don't want to put new stuff at the beginning of the shelf and then kind of use it first, and the old stuff kind of sits there and then expires. You want the ability to access the back of the shelving system or drawer, whatever you have there, quickly, and then put the new stuff back there, and then they're consuming from the front of the shelf. So first in, first out. So number 6 is to make a mock-up on paper. Before you start to move things around, they have to remove them and move them again, do a paper version. So here's Jane. She comes to work and does task A, and go through verbally on paper, what does she need to do task A? She needs a purchase order, okay? Maybe to approve the work or to account for the work, okay? If the purchase order system is in the 15th room to the left, okay, and then the stuff she needs to access is in the first room to the right, she's going to be walking all over the building to go to purchase order, then back to over here. That's going to be a big mess, okay? And so maybe the purchase order system should be actually in step number 1. Here's our linear flow here. The computer or the access to it or whatever is all over here. Maybe a purchase order system, a cash register to do accounting for, some of the supplies, okay? And so all those things in step number 1 are either accessible digitally or they're close by. And then what is step number 2? Maybe there's a workspace she has to kind of put together to kind of lay out stuff correctly for assembly, okay? Or for manufacture, or so whatever design. And so all the things she needs for step 2 close at hand. And then there's kind of step 3, which could be testing or quality control or whatever. And so make sure all those things are close by too. So you can lay out on paper a workflow and just check if the way you were going to design it, lay things out. Are there any kind of gotchas where you forgot that she needs to access the purchase order system, and that is way in building 15, and she's living in building number 1. And so just kind of check it out on paper. You won't make it perfect, but if you can eliminate a couple of mistakes here and there, that would be worth the time for the paper system. So number 7 is to set up the inventory physically for phase 1 items. Again, you'll never know how good it is until you try it out. I can give you the steps. I think if they get you organized, you can do a mock-up on paper that eliminates some of the mistakes quickly and cheaply before mistakes. But truly, you would never know for sure how well it actually works or be able to refine it till you're going to try. So one of the reasons for phase 1 or a small scope is to kind of get a system working and learn from it before going to kind of phase 2. Now, step 8 is to simplify high-volume commodity items. If you have pins or nails or stickers that kind of stick onto things, okay, those things come by the hundreds or the thousands, and you're not going to count them every day to make sure you have enough. Okay, what you could do then is have a bin or a drawer or a shelf and define how many you need to have on hand, okay, maybe 50%. And then actually take a Sharpie pen or a big black marker and actually mark on the bin or the location at what point the volume should go down, at which point you would then reorder. So if you can see the line, then you have to reorder. If you can't see the line, then you have enough stuff, okay? So yes, you would know 50% equals 1,000, okay? And so you're good to go for now, or 100 or whatever it is. But if you then use or consume that amount of stuff and go down to 25%, okay, or 40%, then the line shows up, and therefore you know you're getting below the threshold. So you could play with the idea of the number and then kind of draw your lines. But again, it saves you counting every day these tiny little things, okay? When if you put a collection together, they occupy a certain volume, and you can draw a line on that volume and figure out that you do not have enough stuff because you now can see the line, and therefore the volume of stuff must be below the line. So again, you can count it occasionally, particularly when you're going to restock it, but counting it all day long or counting it frequently will be a waste of time when the volume itself kind of tells you roughly how many you have. Step 9 is to define minimum inventory levels and when to reorder. Now, every system would have this. My spreadsheet has it too. We had to have a reorder level here. And then the quantity on hand actually goes red when you get down to the particular level. We're 0 here, so we're less than 2. And so you want to define clearly when things are going to flag to you when to kind of reorder. It may not be as obvious as the commodity items, how many you have left, because there is a shelf or a drawer or whatever that you have them in. But you want a clear accounting system where as you scan in and out, then these numbers are correct, and therefore the reorder levels trigger correctly too. Number 10, you want to define how to account for returned and scrap items. When things get scrapped because they're broken, or things get returned, they could be in different states. They could be working, they could be not working, they could be broken, whatever. They didn't like the color, and therefore it's kind of good. You want a clear way to hold them somewhere. Here's returned items, here's scrap items, okay? And they get processed correctly. Don't just kind of throw them onto the shelf and hope we're going to remember what it is, okay? We need a way to bin them in a particular location and then process them, which could mean they get thrown away and they're still out of inventory because they've been used, or they could be actually in perfectly good condition and they get accounted for back into inventory correctly. So this bin will get kind of used and get processed, but you've got to have a separate holding area for these non-standard items that kind of come back or get scrapped in the factory. Now, step 11 is to put some data into your system and test it out. Again, you will never know until you try it out. So you have your physical phase 1 item set up correctly. You're going to run through your workflow or your sales process and going to try it out. Okay. Make notes of what is going well and what is not. Do not panic if things don't. You made your best attempt. You try to minimize errors by the paper version, but you'll never be perfect. So just be patient. At least you have a system now that is somewhat functioning, and you can refine it. You can get phase 1 recorrected, and you have all kinds of lessons to add to phase 2. And as you go through the other phases, again, you're making fewer and fewer mistakes because you've already corrected them on a small scale at the beginning. So again, you have your own system, or I have my example here, where now things are scanned and they're defined correctly. We have locations defined, particular shelves and kind of rows. And then when we scan them, we can actually find out where things actually are. This one has costs and sales, and then it has the reorder amount, and then what's kind of left in the inventory system. So step 12 is to update your standard operating procedure. You do want to have a defined way to add and delete from inventory, how to handle things physically. If you have a stockroom or a warehouse and it is full of junk, like the beginning step where we started the video, there's a reason for that. That means there's no protocol or nothing defined for how to add or how to delete. So people randomly did random things, okay? Which is why your warehouse or stockroom looks like it does, okay? With cardboard boxes everywhere and you have no idea what's there. Don't feel too bad about it. It's pretty human, standard human thing. But we are trying to run a business here and kind of keep organized and efficient. That's the whole point of this. And so you do want to define the steps you go through for the company to add and delete. And you want a way to kind of check that being done correctly. So this stuff in here, when it's organized, stays organized. Okay, it takes a bit of effort to do that, but you know the pain and the panic if you have when you can't find stuff. So the little bit of effort to maintain this over time is a good idea. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. Please put any comments and questions down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you want the full class version and the SOP spreadsheet, you can click on this link down over here and get a copy of it. There's a small fee for that, but I think it's kind of worth it. If you want the spreadsheet, the one I showed you on the screens, that also comes with the full-blown class. If you are good to go, I think the 12 steps are pretty self-contained. You could really use any tool you'd like to then organize your data with. Take care. Bye-bye.